We were too late. She should have been dead. But instead, she was waiting for us, mumbling about serpents, standing alone in the dark, and what we found inside that apartment. I don't think I'll ever truly escape it. It was just past midnight, November 2023. Another slow shift in a small, sleepy town where nothing big ever happened. My partner Daniels and I were cruising through the usual routes: rundown apartment complexes, shuttered shops, streets so quiet you could hear your own heartbeat if you tried hard enough. Then the radio crackled to life, slicing through the silence like a razor. Unit 14, welfare check. Male caller concerned about his ex-girlfriend. Unusual texts, no response. 2B, Emerson Apartments. Welfare checks are supposed to be simple. Knock on a door, ask a few questions, clear the call. But the moment I heard the address, my stomach tightened. Emerson Apartments was one of those forgotten places. Old brick, crumbling stairways, peeling paint like dry skin, the kind of place sadness clung to. When we arrived, the street was silent. Not just quiet, heavy, smothering silence. The kind that makes you lower your voice without knowing why. No lights on in 2B, no TV flickering, no shadows moving behind curtains, just darkness. Still, we climbed the steps anyway. I knocked once, twice, announced ourselves loud and clear. Nothing. No shuffle of feet, no muttered 1 second, just the low hum of the streetlights and the faint sound of my own breath. Daniels looked at me, eyebrows drawn tight. "Caller," he mouthed. The number the ex-boyfriend gave us worked. It rang. Once, twice, picked up. At first there was nothing, then breathing, faint, broken, almost childlike. Before I could speak, the line went dead. We both heard it at the same time, a faint ringtone coming from behind the door. "Ma'am, this is the police. Open the door." Still no answer. But then, a click. The soft metallic sound of a deadbolt turning. The door didn't swing open. It simply unlocked, leaving it for us to open. The smell hit us first, not the usual rot of an abandoned building. Something wetter, metallic, like old blood soaked into damp fabric. There she stood, naked, dripping wet, pale as frost. Her hands were shredded, raw and bleeding. Her eyes, vacant, unblinking, mumbling words we couldn't understand. I moved forward slowly, blanket in hand, voice calm, but inside I was screaming. "Ma'am, can you hear me? You're safe. We're here to help you." No response, just more low, slurred muttering. We got her wrapped up, kept her standing, barely. But the deeper we looked into that apartment, the less safe we felt ourselves. Candles burned in every room. Living room, bathroom, even lined the edges of the bathtub. The words scrawled in blood froze my blood cold. 7-headed serpent, scrawled in long, shaky letters. Disobserves, or at least that's what it looked like. And then there was the bathtub. Dark water, brown and viscous, thick, congealed blood pooling in the bottom. She had been sitting in it, hours, maybe longer. By all rights, she should have been dead. Later, back at the station, I couldn't get the images out of my head. The words, the way she stared through us, not at us. So I looked it up. The 7-headed serpent, a monster slain by ancient gods in Sumerian mythology, a symbol of unstoppable chaos. Dis, the city of the damned, the fortress of the deepest, darkest circles of hell. She wasn't calling for help. She wasn't trying to escape. She was reaching out, opening doors. EMS stabilized her somehow. She was alive, barely. We filed the reports, wrote down the facts, but there was no checkbox for whatever that was. No neat category for doors that should have stayed closed. Daniels and I didn't speak much after that call. Some things sit too heavy on the soul for words. She survived, but I wonder, Was it really her that we saved? Or something, wearing her skin, waiting for the next knock at the door. Sometimes the monsters aren't hiding in the dark. They're lighting candles, waiting for you to find them. Some places are cursed. Some places, you don't even realize it until it's already too late. It was supposed to be a simple noise complaint. March 12th, 2024. A quiet little cul-de-sac on the edge of town. Neighbors had called in, reporting loud banging, strange music, and screams. All coming from a house that by every record we had should have been empty. The old Whitmore house, abandoned for nearly a decade. The banks had tried selling it. Investors had tried flipping it. Families had tried living in it. Each time, it came back onto the market. Each time, emptier than before. My partner and I were dispatched just after midnight. The drive out was uneventful. Dead streets, low fog curling against the cracked sidewalks. It almost made the town look smaller, like it was shrinking into the mist. We pulled up across the street. No lights inside the Whitmore house, no movement. Nothing but a heavy, almost unnatural darkness pressing against the windows. And yet, we could hear it. Low, distorted music. A record player maybe, skipping every few seconds. And something else underneath it. Knocking, scraping. A steady rhythmic pounding that seemed to rattle the rotted wood of the porch. We crossed the street slowly. Boots crunching on the loose gravel. My hand rested instinctively on the grip of my sidearm. I announced our presence, loud and clear. Police, if anyone's inside, announce yourself. Nothing. The door was unlocked, the wood swollen and soft from years of rain and neglect. It gave way with a groan that seemed almost reluctant. The inside was worse. Walls stripped to bare studs, floorboards warped and cracked. The smell of mold and something far older clung to everything. And there in the living room was the source of the music. An old, battered record player, spinning a warped vinyl, the sound warped and bleeding like a wounded animal. No furniture, no signs of recent habitation. But the banging, it didn't stop. It was coming from the basement. Long pause. The basement door was slightly ajar, a thin sliver of darkness leaking out like smoke. We announced ourselves again. No answer. Flashlights up, guns drawn, we descended the creaking steps. The smell down there was worse. Wet earth, rot, rust. The banging grew louder, harder, almost frantic. We rounded the last step and froze. Across the dirt floor, every inch of the walls had been covered. Symbols, carvings, marks gouged deep into the foundation with something sharp. And in the center of the basement was a hole. Longer pause. 6 feet wide, perfectly round, too perfect to be natural, far too deep to see the bottom. The banging was coming from inside it. We stood there paralyzed, breathless, listening, and then a hand, tense beat. A hand, slick and gray and too long, reached up out of the blackness, fingers groping blindly at the dirt. We ran. We didn't stop to close the door. We didn't stop to look back. Heavy silence. Back at the station, we filed the report. We wrote it up as no contact, property secured. Because anything else, anything closer to the truth, would have sounded insane. Slow fade. 2 weeks later, they demolished the Whitmore house, buried the foundation, paved it over, built a playground on top of it. The kids say you can still hear it late at night. The banging, the music, the whispers. Some places are cursed, and some places, they never let you leave. You don't think about stairwells, not really, they're just there, until you're trapped in one, until you're standing between 2 floors and something is following you from the dark. It started with a building inspection. April 8th, 2024. Old government complex on the east side, decommissioned 2 years ago after a fire in the lower levels. Since then, the building sat empty, rotting quietly from the inside out. Homeless camps had sprung up around it. Kids dared each other to break in. Sometimes they didn't come back. So when the city finally sent a team to seal it properly, we were asked to sweep it first, just to be sure it was empty. It should have been easy. We entered through the side loading dock, flashlights cutting through the thick, stagnant air. It smelled like wet stone and burnt plastic, a scent that clung to your clothes, your skin, even after you left. The main lobby was stripped bare, broken furniture, graffiti curling up the peeling walls. Nothing moved, no footsteps, no voices. It was supposed to be clear. Short pause. But then, the stairwell door. It swung open on its own. No wind, no vibration, nothing that could have caused it. Just the slow, deliberate creak of rusted hinges. We stepped closer. The stairwell inside spiraled up and down into darkness. Concrete steps stained with soot and something darker. We called out. No answer. My partner shined his light upward. Nothing but dust motes spinning lazily in the beam. He swung it downward, and that's when we heard it. Footsteps, slow, heavy, dragging, coming up the stairs from below. Long pause. We froze. There was no reason anyone should have been down there. The sub-basement was sealed after the fire. We announced ourselves. Police, identify yourself. No response. Only the sound of breathing, low, ragged, wet. It echoed up from the dark like a dying animal. Tense silence. We backed away, keeping our lights trained on the opening. The footsteps grew louder, closer, until they stopped. Just out of sight. We waited, breath held, muscles tight. And then, a face. Just for a moment, peeking around the corner of the stairwell. It wasn't human. The features were wrong, too long, too smooth. It smiled, longer chilling pause, and then it started running. We ran too. Out through the lobby, through the loading dock, back into the night air that never smelled sweeter. We sealed the building that night, not because it was protocol, but because whatever was down there, it wanted out. 3 days later, they tore the building down. Concrete and twisted rebar piled into a landfill on the outskirts of town. No reports since. No more missing kids. No more strange noises. But sometimes, when the wind is just right, if you stand near the old landfill, you'll hear it. The creak of a stairwell door swinging open. And the wet, heavy breathing. Still climbing, floor by floor, looking for a way back up. Some doors are better left unopened. Some noises better left unanswered. But sometimes curiosity is louder than fear, and by the time you realize you should have stayed away, it's already too late. If you're still here, you're already part of the story. Subscribe now if you dare to hear what comes next.